want to come back to that. Okay, let me talk about the local elections for a moment. Okay, so we just had our primary, right, in May. And what's fascinating is I looked at your vote, the Democratic vote. In the presidential primary in March, there were 8,900 Democratic votes. In the May primary, which was mostly local elections, county commissioners, sheriff, legislators, your vote was 7,000. What's fascinating is there's a 1,900 vote difference. I believe that some of those votes were people who changed party to Republican. I have to tell you, I don't know who you are, but bless your hearts, because if you hadn't done it, I would have lost. I am not popular in the northern part of this county for two reasons. Number one, the 3% tax increase that we put into effect for this current fiscal year, without which our deputies would not have been competitive with Coeur d'Alene, and our general employment base, which was lagging behind other jurisdictions for years, would not even begun to catch up. And secondly, you remember the whole building code issue? When people wanted the right to opt out of building codes, when that was passed in the spring of 18, I dissented. Nevertheless, I was outvoted 2-1. But this past spring of 2019, thanks to Bill Brooks, I got the second vote. Building codes are now mandatory again in the county. But the problem again, let's go back to Orange County. Where are they settling when they move up here? Athol, Rathdrum. So my biggest losses occurred in that northern tier because they want to do what they want to do. And I don't know how many of you actually had the opportunity to attend the hearings for this opt-out, the opting out of the building codes. And what I would hear over and over again was, I left the occupied zone. At one point I said, that's your problem. This is not a free-for-all up here. We've had codes for decades. Now all of a sudden you want to make them optional? David Callahan, who directs our community development, said, as a result of the opt-out, there will be an injury or a death. Because if you give people the chance to opt out of building codes, and if they can build crap, that's what they're going to build.
Yep.
All because they don't want to spend $1 a square foot to have inspections and proper permitting. But again, this is what we're recruiting, folks, and this is what's coming in. So I had to get that off my chest too. But back to the elections again. And here's potentially the silver lining. Okay, so Republicans dominate up here. If you look at the elections at the local level, there were some victories for moderate Republicans. Bill Brooks, myself, Doug O running against Tim Casting, Peter Riggs defeating Mark Eberline and Alex Barron, both very extreme, okay? And Bob Norris, one of the probably most reasonable of the sheriff's candidates. So in many ways, the moderates, more centrist, if you will, basically prevailed. But here's the problem now. These guys on the Central Committee don't go down easy. So I just learned today that Jeff Tyler, and if you don't know who Jeff Tyler is, he's the director of Northwest Property Owners Association, NWPOA, which is they're a property rights group, but they get involved in a lot of other things, and they frankly don't even understand property rights, but that's beside the point. And basically take a very individualistic approach to property rights, is planning to run as a write-in against Doug Okinowitz. And that's, I want to say that's like the Hayden district thereabouts. And there's another gentleman named Brett Surplus who wants to run as a write-in against Peter Riggs. Once again, Peter Riggs won the primary nomination for Senate against Mark Eberline and Alex Barron. Typically in the state of Idaho, write-ins don't win. It's a very slim chance. Now, Brett Surplus is very far right. He wears a t-shirt that says Band of Brothers, which leads me to conclude that probably a fair percentage of the membership of the far right must be ex-law enforcement from elsewhere. And that concerns me greatly, but it is what it is. I'm issuing a wake-up call, folks. You got to vote. You have got to vote in November, okay? And it's critically important. And if you get a chance to get on Facebook, and you certainly don't have to participate in the vitriol, but you can engage some of these people on these various threads and respond to them.